Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Ahsoka. Sometimes, even the right reasons have the wrong consequences. What do we do then? Welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our watch club for Ahsoka, Part 1, titled Master and Apprentice, directed by Dave Filoni. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and Star Wars in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in less than 12 parsecs. Now, before we lose a map and hug a Lothcat, let me introduce you to my Rebel crew joining me today. First up, he's no Jedi. He's Justin, the Lothcat Lawrence.
Hello. How are we?
Would you say you're a Lothcat or a Loth kitten?
I say a Lothcat, for sure.
Lothcat?
He is a fully grown man.
Face. Yeah.
Well, you never know. You never know. But of course, always two there are. Docking down, declaring droid indank pendants. He's Darcy, the dank Dathomirian Hudson.
It's always got to be something to do with dank. I feel like that's the only word you know how to describe me.
It's just, it works because your name is Darcy. It fits in a lot of words. A dank Thomirian, maybe? That would be pretty dope. I can see that.
It'd be a very smoky Dathomirian. That's all I can picture right now.
You'd have a green lightsaber. It'd be sick. Guys, I am so stoked. I mean, this is... How many watch clubs in are we now? I think this is watch club number 19, if I'm not mistaken, which is absolutely insane.
That's a lot. Watch clubs. We've watched a lot of stuff together and then talked about it for a lot of time.
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. Of course, with everything going on in Hollywood, of course, if you haven't kept up with all of the series, I think this is a great time to maybe even go back and check out some of those earlier watch clubs and maybe watch some of the earlier, things that we've covered. But guys, I need to take a moment. I brought up Lothcats with Justin being a Loth cool cat and kitten. And we get a lot of a Lothcat. I think in this first episode, we get quite a bit. And I know we saw one in Mando, but I think this is the most we've seen one in kind of moving around and stuff. I wanted to ask both of you, are you a Lothcat person or a Corellian hound person? And if so, what would you name your furry friend?
I'm definitely a hound person. I've got two right now, and going on their names, I'd probably name it something like I don't know, like Greedo or something, or not even that. Maybe like a Trandoshan. I just name it Trandoshan because I like to name my animals other animals, moose and bear. Like,
I mean, the Trandoshans might have something to say about you calling them animals, but I
can't think of any other species off the top of my head here, man. Sorry.
I love it.
I may have or may not have dabbled in something before sitting down.
I told you, in dank pendants. Justin, how about yourself?
I probably go with a hound as well.
Yeah.
Really? Cats, they're a bit much.
What? I've always heard the opposite.
They're stuck up. They're so entitled. I hate them.
Yeah, I guess I'd be more of a hound person, I think.
Yeah? What name are you giving it in a galaxy far, far away?
Lando.
Lando. Oh, I like it. Okay, cool. Give him a little jacket. I think for me, I'm definitely a Lothcat person. 100%. Like, just getting to, lays out with a little Lothcat, fall asleep. They make great pillows. I think you guys have just been interacting with the wrong cat.
You're talking about Lothcats, right?
No, cats.
Yeah,
cats suck.
Yeah.
I've had cats. I like dogs more.
Okay, well, listen. As I mentioned earlier, I'm stoked to get into what is essentially season 5 of Rebels. But before we do, I do want to pause and remind you listening that we here at Geekcentric support the WGA and SAG-AFTRA as they strike to get the contract that they deserve. I mean, without incredible writers and actors, we wouldn't get all of the wonderful stories like the ones from A Galaxy Far, Far Away that we love so much. So if you want to support the actors and writers of the things that we love, you can do so by checking out the links in our description. Guys, let's get into part 1, titled Master and Apprentice. We start off with the Lucasfilm logo in red, to a very samurai-inspired drum sound, and then over a backdrop of stars, we get a crawl. An intense red font crawl crawls up the screen. Before we go any further, guys, I mean, Filoni knows what fans want, and I think this is the first time that I think we've gotten a crawl proper since episode 9, if I'm not mistaken. I know that some of the comics have sort of done the thing where they have put the crawl. Darcy, correct me if I'm wrong,
but usually a crawl in every
kind of a crawl sort of
stuff like that. Yeah.
Right, but at least on screen, what did you guys think of this dark red crawl over the stars?
It felt more like a samurai story for sure, and that's partially because of the music, but also it wasn't distorted and angled into the stars. It was its own. It was just straight up. It almost looked like pages from a book, right? That would sort of be your prelude into this story, which the crawl always is. It kind of sets up the time and the events that you're about to see unfold. So I liked that he did this. I like that he brought that back, but I also like that he did it his own way. He didn't stick it into the sort of fantastical, whimsical way that we know the crawl to be in that sort of angular up into the sky method. It's very methodic. It's very prescriptive, and it fits the tone with that tribal samurai drum that just kind of hints at the sort of looming doom that we have on the horizon. So I think this was a smart way to do it, and a way to do it his own way.
Yeah, it was intense, right? Like, I mean, even just the fact that the Lucasfilm logo was in that same red, and we didn't get the sort of the normal, kind of upbeat music, not so upbeat, but the Star Wars fanfare music that we normally get there. And I think Kevin Kiner's score in the background it just made it even more striking. But I think it was funny because I was like, it took me a moment to realize, and then like some nostalgic adrenaline kicked in, and I was like, it's a crawl, and there's a ship gliding through it as we transition into the story. And I think the word that comes to mind for me, and I'm probably going to bring it up a bunch of times, is remix. In the sense that it does pay homage to what came before. It gives fans what they want, but it does it in a way that's just different enough and makes it holistically this series, Ahsoka. So fantastic stuff. Let's keep going here. So then after the crawl, as I mentioned, we see a New Republic ship glide across view, and just as they enter Sector G38, an old Jedi clearance code comes in as another ship approaches the crew. Captain Hale, wary of these Jedi, hands control of the bridge over to his second in command, and meets the now boarding ship in the hangar with his security detail. Two hooded figures, one male and one female, approach him, and after he questions their authenticity, he calls them overconfident Imperial trash who just pushed their luck too far. As he requests for his astromech droid to scan them for their identification, the hooded man nods to his apprentice, and they begin to attack the security team. He then grabs the captain and tells him he's right about one thing, and says, "We are no Jedi," as he thrusts his saber through him, ending his life. He then proceeds to unabashedly take out the rest of the crew, slicing and dicing down the hallway, and then he frees Morgan Elsbeth, who informs him that Ahsoka Tano, the Jedi who captured her, seeks the map, and then knows about Thrawn. So let's talk about this absolutely incredible opener for the series. Darcy, what did you think of these two quote unquote not Jedi and the recovery of Morgan Elsbeth?
I mean, I'll be talking about this a lot in this episode. The fact that there are so many references or callbacks almost to like the prequel and original trilogy. Because as soon as those two guys come off, the two hooded figures come off the ship, I was getting Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan visiting.
The Separatists? Is that where you're thinking? Yeah.
Yeah, whenever the first time we see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon was very similar to this, appearance, and it just what they go on to do after. We got basically another Darth Vader hallway scene with Baylan Skoll, and it was incredible. So, yeah, this is a wicked way to introduce these two, as you're calling them, not Jedi, and again, immediately had me hooked and wanting to know more about them. So, wicked way to kick off the series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So good.
A wicked way to be introduced to Ray Stevenson too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Such control, such military precision to his fighting style. There's a sense of structure to it. He seems like someone that is very much in the know, and he has an understanding of what's going on. And I think he was expecting this outcome to happen. But yeah, like Ray Stevenson as Baylan Skoll, I'm very interested to see this character's journey, but also just as much his apprentice Shin Hati. Fascinating character. I'm more interested in their relationship. But that said, what a great way to kick off this episode. This very much gets the ball rolling, gets the story moving, but at the same time, it really does set up the first of many pieces that are, of mystery and intrigue. So bravo.
Yeah, I think they, the references and callbacks and the way that they're redoing them. I mean, even just the line "We are no Jedi" is so powerful, especially in a series about Ahsoka, and that one of probably her most recognizable, famous line of "I am no Jedi," and I think it's just. I think it's coming from this dark Jedi, as Darcy, you kind of put it in our spoiler free, is just so perfect. He's so menacing, and yeah, like in a way, it was like a Darth Vader Rogue One impression, but it doesn't rip off that.
It adds
moment.
It adds to the hallway.
It adds to it, right?
It adds to the hallway scenes that
we're going to see fans making montages with both those scenes next to each other. The poetry, it rhymes kind of thing, right?
Let's not forget Luke's.
Yeah, I was going to say,
right?
Absolutely.
So like there's a
hallways, dude.
Hallway scenes are and that's cool, right? Like I think that again he. For Filoni to, as you say, remix or throw something like that in, but it's different too, right? Like there's such a control in the way Baylan walks down that hallway. Like he's not dodging; he's standing his ground, and his blade is just moving around him, ricocheting these blasts back and slashing as he gets closer and closer to these New Republic security. So it's like, I think again, it just goes to show, like even the way he fights. There's a sense of structure. There's maybe a little less fluidity, but that is also very much juxtaposed based on his Padawan. His Padawan moves very fluidly. When she comes barging in on the bridge, you see her like already foreseeing the shots to the side and the shots in the front. Like she's so intact with what's going on. Also, just a huge shout out to, I think Filoni low key got like a Star Trek vibe with the way the bridge and the captain and comms and
sure
hail them. There was this very like elusive Star Trek vibe to that moment that felt very reminiscent of the Enterprise.
Well, and I mean, I even was getting so many New Hope vibes as well, from obviously the look and feel of everything, but even just like little lines in the background, like they're heading to the detention level, and I was just like, oh, the detention level, I know that place, sweet. Like it just, again, it's one of those things that
we didn't get though.
They know what
didn't get. Yeah. They're going up the ventilation shaft.
We didn't get that, and we didn't get a trash compactor. So exactly. Filoni, do better, okay? No, it's fantastic. Okay, let's keep going here. We then see we watch as Ahsoka, quietly hooded, approaches an ancient temple on a world named Arcana. After lifting her hood, she pulls the coolest move ever, and uses her lightsabers to cut a circular hole, allowing her to fall into a room below her. She uses the Force to sense voices that reveal to her the solution to a puzzle that reveals the star map. After exiting the room the same way that she entered, she's confronted by 4 MK assassin droids. After luring them closer to her, she jumps back down into the room, cutting circles from the floor, pulling the others in and taking them out one by one. But when they realize that they can't win, they initiate self-destruct protocol, and Ahsoka runs to her ship, which is being piloted by Huyang. Behind her, a massive explosion erupts as she manages to board just in time to escape it. On board, Ahsoka reminds Huyang that he no longer has to follow standard Jedi protocol, as the Order no longer exists. And then they're informed that they need to reconvene with Home One, as there has been an incident. So what a perfect, reintroduction, I think, for most people to Ahsoka. Justin, what did you think of this temple and this fight with these MK assassin droids?
The temple's cool. I am definitely very interested to learn more about this temple and what's going on here. We do get an answer later, but I'm sure we'll save that for discussion. But what I really like is that they're not wasting any time. Mm-hmm. In the first scene, Morgan says she's looking for the map, and then boom, we're following up where she is now on the trail of the map, and I think that's just really good. Let's get things moving. So I enjoyed the aspect of being introduced to Ahsoka as she's figuring out a puzzle, as she's on a mission. It felt very Indiana Jones-esque, if you will, to a certain degree. Obviously, the action scene with the MK assassin droids, phenomenal. The best part about it is that it's very refreshing to have a lightsaber duel. In a show like this, with Mando, we've been so removed from this Jedi lore. We haven't gotten that many lightsaber battles. I think the last one we really got was obviously Rise of the Skywalker. But, that said, it feels like the TV series have been so removed from Jedi lore stuff. So this felt refreshing. And as we get through, we'll talk about other ones. But, there's lightsabers in this episode. And this first one was fantastic. This lightsaber battle was great.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the fight and everything of that was awesome, but I think this is one of the instances where, because we're such a fan of the animation, or at least from my point of view, where some of it's taking me out. Like the fighting was great, her taking out all those droids was awesome, stuff like that. But as soon as the bombs were set and she had to run away, that's where it felt like it really slowed down, because we're used to them moving so quickly in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. They move so fluidly and fast, and you can't do that with real people. So to me, it seems weird that it seems like she's really slowed down. I mentioned it after our spoiler free that it's almost like a Tom Cruise run, but she doesn't have, there's not the sense of urgency behind her running where she's not moving as fast or as far as she should be in this situation. So, I think we'll be experiencing that throughout the rest of this series, because we're loving of the Rebels and Clone Wars where we saw Ahsoka, that those comparisons are going to be hard to avoid. And again, the fighting is great. It's just maybe don't focus on her running so much.
No, for sure. I would agree. That was a bit of a moment. I think it was Nate and Meg that were kind of talking about like the tails bouncing and stuff like that, when they run and how it looks versus in the animation. And I don't know, I feel like it's more practical, right? Like rewatching that scene of her running, it felt like you said, Darcy, like not as fantastical as the animated, because they would adjust the speed and they would move very quickly. So much like the fighting, and I think the sense of practicality around the look of the character and what makes sense, and seeing her run at a relatively normal running speed, I think it's just a sense of adapting from animation into live action, like what does make sense in telling these stories, right? So
I will say though, the way she cuts into the ground is, as far as I'm aware, a callback to the funniest deleted moment of Revenge of the Sith. Have you guys ever seen the scene? It's Grievous is standing there, and it's Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they're just like looking at each other, and they're giving each other like weird like hand gestures and hand signals and stuff like that, and like doing like weird codes to each other for like honestly 2 minutes straight, as Grievous just stands there looking at them, and then they end up agreeing on something, and they cut into the ground and turn in a circle and then fall into the sewer below. It's an amazing deleted scene, and I love that it's I don't know if this was intentional, but it feels like this is Filoni calling back to that moment, but again remixing it to be so much more badass, where she's using the Force to turn the sabers and then pulling them back out of the ground. I love it. I also want to call out just a little subtle thing that Rosario does when she jumps back out of the hole and she sees the droid. It's the littlest thing, but she jumps out, and not only does she land with her entire body, like it feels like her entire body just, there's not really any bounce other than her head tails, and immediately her head is tilted to the right, and it's such a Snips thing to do, to just have that sort of cocky attitude of like, oh, this is no problem for me, like I am the shit right now. And I loved it. I love it so much.
You also get moments in this scene with her and her dialogue where again, you're seeing the maturity. Like Rosario is definitely not trying to emulate Ashley Eckstein version of Ahsoka to a T. I think she's, again, adapting it. Maybe, to your point, remixing it. You know what I mean? And bringing her own sense of where she thinks the character is. You know, there's some instances in how she delivers lines, and, you know, in the moment that we're talking about here, it's when she holds up the saber and says, "Come no closer." Like, it just felt different for Ahsoka, but I didn't mind it at the same time, right? I just, realistically, we haven't really spent that much time with her, and this is obviously going to be her series, and, you know, she's going to be the character that drives it. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these nuances of difference from animated to live action that might be refreshingly beneficial.
And it is so funny how often in these shows it's just like I don't know whether I don't know if it's us or if it's them, but you know, we talked about it in Mando quite a bit, especially early on, but video game vibes, like right off the bat here. Like I might as well be playing Jedi Survivor right now with like turning the stone and aiming it in the right.
Psychometry going on too, like when she's hearing the past. It's just like, oh, that without the game, I'd be like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Okay, so then once back with Home One, Ahsoka is greeted by General Hera Syndulla, who informs her and Huyang of Morgan Elsbeth's escape and the two Force wielders responsible for the abstraction. Ahsoka asks Huyang to scan their lightsabers for any clues, and after Huyang informs Hera that he can't unlock the map, Hera suggests that Ahsoka take it to someone who can. So let's talk about Hera here. She's here. She's in live action. What do we think of our reintroduction to General Syndulla?
I thought it was great. I mean, she looks like the look of the character is really well done. I mean, again, coming from cartoon where eyes are bigger and proportions are thrown out of whack because it's another medium that you aren't really emulating real life. It's hard to try and compare the two characters because there are things that just won't translate over. Like, you can't make Mary Elizabeth Winstead's eyes any bigger than they are because she's a human and that's how big her eyes are. So some of that is a bit weird. Again, it's one of those things where we are so attached to an animated version of this character.
It's just going to take some getting used to.
It's going to take some getting used to, for sure. Some growing pains. More than anything, it's the interaction between these two characters that has me kind of scratching my head a bit, where these are supposed to be friends, and maybe we're going to find out later on why there's a bit of distance or something like that. It doesn't feel like the last time we saw Hera and Ahsoka, they'd be on this, you know, have this rapport. It's very like there's a distance between them, it seems. And it's weird.
See, I was thinking the same thing, but, you know, I'm going through a rewatch of Rebels right now. I'm at season 3, and, you know, Ahsoka's not even around, and this is a pivotal season, and I know she comes back in season 4, but to a certain degree, it kind of fits in my mind. Like, it's just, they have a sense of respect for who they are and the history that they have together, and it's almost like professional. Do you know what I mean? Like Hera seems to try to push a little more into the personal, but obviously Ahsoka's a little like walls up sort of thing, because she's got things that, you know, she's, you know, not dealing with, if for lack of better words. So I what I really love about, you know, our introduction to General Syndulla, which, first off, fantastic. You know, from the first time we heard that name in Rogue One in the background to now actually seeing her as a general, I absolutely love it. The only thing is, I wish Chopper was with her, but we'll get to that later. But, you know, I think right off the bat, though, there's a sense of sincerity and honesty to Mary Elizabeth's performance that feels so right for the character of Hera. You know, it's not overbearingly motherly, but it's caring. And that's the one key word I would always think about when I thought about Hera, is how caring she is for those around her. And, you know, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty if she has to. So, you know, I think this was a great little introduction, but it's still tiny in comparison to where we end up with her, you know, by the end of episode 2.
Well, speaking of motherly, Darcy, I mean, you brought up a good point off there when we were chatting about this. You know, Hera has a son. Did you sense at all that she had a son in this scene, or do you think she's a bad mom and just left him behind somewhere?
Well, I don't.
This is the first instance of me questioning where Jason is. That's for sure. And it's. I'll just say that I'm questioning myself. That question arises a lot more as we get through this episode, and then even into the next one, where it's like, not even a name drop. Like Ahsoka's not going to even ask how's the kid because
that's exactly it too. Like there's no mention, right? And you think that, especially the way things do end off with Rebels. You see Jason in the cockpit with Hera, so you know there's a relationship there. You know that there's a sense of she has something to kind of invest in beyond just the rebellion, right? But yeah, like it does seem strange, but I don't know. Like I'm not to obviously, I don't think anything bad or dark has happened here, but we know Luke's got a Jedi school out there. So if Ahsoka said, "Hey Hera, this Jedi master is running a school."
Yeah, he's got a little green kid right now, but there should be some room opening up soon. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe that's where she's, because obviously at the end of the day, she's still a general, right? And she has
got a job to do. Yeah,
she's got a job to do. She has an
fair.
important role. So it's I don't think it necessarily negates the fact that she is. But it's just weird that there was no mention.
No mention. That's
I don't think it's anything about her being a bad mom.
No,
like she's
that girl. That comes with later. Again, more scenes with her, and still no mention. That's from does she even care about her kid? Come on.
He's got to be somewhere. I hope we at least, honestly, even if
well,
we don't see the kid, I hope we get at least a mention.
I think we'll see him. I
really?
Honestly do. I think we will. I think we'll see him, and I think it'll definitely be implied. I think there's a story there.
He could be off with Zeb for all we know. Like
for sure, he could be part of the rebellion.
He 100% is.
Right?
Hera's not going to stop her son from wanting to fight. That's what
he would be.
That's how their relationship started. That's where he came from.
I think he'd be old enough. He'd still be like look at when we watch Rebels, like some of these kids that are part of.
You see Leia working
the
for the
Empire
rebellion when she's 14.
Exactly. So it's he might with his mother's tenacity and maybe whatever force skills he has, he could be pretty interesting. But my theory is if we get Ezra back, we could get more of a Jason and Ezra thing, right? Because there's a deep relationship between Ezra and Kanan, which is obviously Jason's father, and passing on that legacy. I think that's the route you would go with Jason's story. So if he's off part of the rebellion, I like the idea that he could be with Zeb. I think that's great. That might make the most sense. Right?
Well, if we see Jason, his ears are probably not going to look right, and we're all going to be mad.
They're going to be bouncing around too much.
They'll be too bouncy.
Elf ears look fine. We've never said elf ears look weird. So
yeah, but he's going to be orange with green hair. What did you say? An Oompa Loompa?
He's kind of Oompa Loompa-ish. That was a quick little scene in Rebels. I feel like that was just shoehorned in at the end to make us all happy.
That's right.
That's not his actual appearance.
All right, well, let's keep going here. This brings us to Lothal, which I think is the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've seen Lothal in live action. During a dedication ceremony for the heroic efforts and sacrifice of Ezra Bridger and the Ghost crew, Governor Ryder Azadi calls for Commander Sabine Wren, but when she's nowhere to be found, he orders his security team to recover her and asks Senator Jai Kell to fill in time while they search for her. Now, while upbeat rock music plays, we see Sabine ripping down the highway on a speeder, just being the coolest badass there ever was. After Captain Porter orders her to pull over, she gives him a new order and tells him to get lost. After a second pilot sets down in front of her on the highway, Sabine speeds up, and just before she would crash into the ship, she drops grav and slides right under the ship. Captain Porter is so impressed, he's convinced to let her go, and she makes her way back home to Ezra's tower, comm tower E272. Once back, we see Sabine feed her adorable loft cat and watch back a holo recording of Ezra, which we assume was his last message to her. What an incredibly badass moment. Justin, what did you think of the reintroduction to Sabine Wren?
Well, first, the reintroduction to Lothal. I thought it was interesting to not give us the iconic skyline and maybe give us some of that to introduce us into it. Instead, we get this aerial sort of shot of a very developed, very just bustling.
Yeah, they're doing well there.
They're doing well at Lothal. It's not the same. It's there's towers and there's landings where people are standing while there's this big presentation. The graffiti wall is contained in what looks to be like some monumental museum. So it was really, really interesting to, that was the first introduction, because then it does make, when we do see that skyline and that signature sort of Lothal highway, then you're like, oh, okay, there's the Lothal I remember. But yeah, it was absolutely great to be introduced to Sabine Wren in a similar fashion to how we're introduced to Ezra Bridger, if I'm not mistaken, and in a similar sort of chase down. It's a different circumstance of situation. I think it's the Empire that's chasing him down, but here, it's reminiscent of that, and I think it almost just kind of hints at, again, the remix, the poetry, the idea that she's kind of on the same journey as Ezra once was, maybe implying that it's obviously going to look different, it's going to be different, but to see how she is in this moment and how badass she is, telling that captain to basically go fuck themselves, right? Stopping for nobody. You know what I mean?
I wish they had the opportunity to actually have her say something like that, or eat shit or something. You know what I mean? But I get it. Yeah. I get it. It's Star Wars. It's Disney. They gotta, but that's what it felt like in my heart, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it was an interesting reintroduction, because this is not the Sabine Wren that we remember. It feels like she's very trapped in the past. Like, as soon as we see her walk into, like, first off, she's wearing the old helmet from the Rebels, very similar to something that Ezra was wearing, his helmet from the time through Rebels and stuff like that. And just the fact that she's still in Ezra's place, she's still got those drawings that do feel very childish almost, and the Loth cats like dotting the walls and all that stuff. She's clearly gone through something that I hope we get to explore, because she does not seem as confident as I would remember, Sabine Wren, especially from where we left off in Rebels, how she had helped the rebellion gain such an upper hand into the defeat of Thrawn, and now here we are years later, and she almost seems like she hasn't moved past that point.
She hasn't. It's clear that she hasn't. I think that we're seeing a Sabine that is got a little grief that she hasn't overcome, or PTSD, if you will. She did lose her brother, what I mean? And the fact that she's kind of, just like, Luke or Rey, she has this sort of sanctuaried space that feels reminiscent of the past life that she remembers as to be very happy. And I do think that plays a factor into what may have gone down between Ahsoka and Sabine when we talk about that. But yeah, I like that idea that her returning to this place that wasn't even hers to begin with. It was obviously Ezra's, and she's made it her own home, and there's so much that is visible there. It's clear that she's very much still dealing with the grief and the loss of Ezra.
But I think it's like, she's so badass, and I love how Hera's reveal was more along the lines of, how can I help? And you should talk to Sabine. Like, I'm a mom. You should, repair your relationship. And then Sabine's is just, get lost. I'm going to do my thing. I love it so much. I also just really want to quickly mention Ryder Azadi, Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
We've got not only the voice of Ryder Azadi in Rebels, but now in live action. Super dope. I don't think we'll see too much more of him throughout the series, but I hope we get to see him at least.
But we know where he is. We know where he is, right. And we know that he's still around.
Yeah,
right. And like kicking. that's exactly. I think Lothal is going to still matter, and maybe for future iterations of whatever stories are planned. So I think that it's nice to say, like, he's still around. This is his home. He's the leader here. He's leading people, especially given the very complicated history that the Rebels have had with him, where at one point they were at odds with one another, and now they've obviously come to work together. So I think that's a perfect realization. I was happy to see that. That's almost on the equivalence of like seeing Lando.
But I'm just excited to see where Clancy Brown shows up next, having played Savage Opress, having played Berg on The Mandalorian, and Ryder Azadi, and then again here in live action. Like, I hope we just get Clancy Brown for the rest of Star Wars, or at least Filoni Star Wars forever.
Then an episode when all of his characters
somehow through the multiverse, through the space.
No, just all at once. Like, you just do it so that it is like,
I just don't know. Are they all alive? I don't think.
Maybe not. Yeah.
That might be a little tough.
Yeah, don't think Berg's alive.
Berg's not alive. No. for sure not.
Okay, so then Shin Hati, Balin Skull are their names if you're just catching up. Merrick is the third kind of character that is working with Morgan Elsbeth, and we see them all traversing the ruins on Arcana, where Ahsoka recovered the map. We learn that the temple was originally a stronghold built by the Night Sisters of Dathomir thousands of years ago, and Morgan Elsbeth calls them her sisters. Balin says either Ahsoka has the map or it was destroyed, and after Morgan tells him, no, trust me, she has it, okay? And she commands Shin to be sent to Lothal, and Balin tells Shin that Ahsoka Tano's former apprentice is on Lothal, and that she should seek Sabine Wren. Let's take a moment here to discuss the reveal. Morgan Elsbeth is a Night Sister. Was this ever established in The Mandalorian, Darcy?
I don't think so. I mean, this revelation just has me questioning, how far back or how far removed, I guess, is she from Dathomir? Because we know the Great Purge kind of wiped out the Night Sisters, and that's where we kind of see Merrin in the Jedi Survivor storyline, kind of picking up the pieces of that, dealing with the loss of all her sisters. So clearly Elsbeth's family or ancestry got off planet before then. Also, this is kind of the first time hearing of Dathomirian, or at least the Night Sisters, having strongholds outside of Dathomir. This is kind of opening up that door to they're a bit more widespread than we first thought. They're not trapped on Dathomir. These magics kind of go across the galaxy. So that's kind of has me intrigued for sure.
That has me 100% intrigued. I think that the fact that, with the introduction of the sisters and Dathomir and sort of witchcraft, it really opened the door for space magic in the animated series, and that wasn't really explored enough. Rooting it in the origins of Maul and going further with that, it made it all really, really interesting. So I'm really happy that we're finding yet again another Filoni thing that he's bringing over to sort of sprinkle through, because it's crazy when with the introduction of the temple, you see the statues and the face is gone, and I'm like, that looks very Dathomirian. And then when they get in there, I'm like, okay, is it Dathomirian, or is it the what was the alien species that the Grand Inquisitor is a part of?
Oh,
yeah, he is
the sort of elongated face, because I know in Revenge of the Sith, when they go to when Obi-Wan goes to confront Grievous on that planet, that planet is made up of the same species.
Yeah, he's Pauan, P-A-U'-A-N.
Yeah.
No, I definitely saw that too.
In the statue,
the smaller nose, the smaller mouth.
So it was a bit of a guessing game. But when she says that she was a part, or she is, Dathomirian, and that calls them her sisters, it makes me wonder if it's not necessarily by genetics, more so by belief.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Is it
Found
a religion?
Family, right?
Yeah, sort of thing. Maybe it is
cult.
something along those lines, or something where, again, space magic. Is there a not a low key sort of cult, like you're saying, that's dabbling in the dark space magics, if you will, to kind of combat the stuff.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's also cool too, because with Thrawn on the horizon and this map, which again, I'm questioning how an ancient Night Sister stronghold will have a map towards Thrawn's present location. But then you think about the fact that the Chiss are another race that have female Force-sensitive users who access the Force in a different way, and it's almost like where Night Sister is almost an offshoot of the Chiss, where the Chiss exploring in the past, or the other way around. There's so many rich things for this, again, new ways to access the Force that Filoni's introducing almost.
Right, I don't think so. I think where it's taking us is the place beyond the place where the Purgles will reside. It's their home, right? It's where they are from, and that may challenge time and space. Who knows? Because of the way they move through space. But in terms of the connection, I think that Thrawn has somehow channeled some heightened ability in this new place where he might be stuck, and the way he's reaching out is through this sort of dark magic way that the Dathomirian are kind of rooted in, right? It's almost like a ham radio, right?
Mhm.
Like he's tapping the right channel, and he's hitting the right person on the other side. So I don't know, obviously Morgan and him have a history, they have a past. So what that past might look like, and he appreciates cultures. So maybe he's dabbled in the Dathomirian in more ways than one.
Right.
So,
you almost have to wonder if what does he have that Morgan wants? And is it the ability to maybe reconnect with her history and with her culture and with her sisters directly in one way or another, whether it be through time, space, or magic? I am not anywhere near versed on the books, and I know, Darcy, you are. I know though that you might not be as versed on like the old, like the classic stuff,
the legends.
but I know that there's like I distinctly am picturing a cover of a book with like a wizard on it or something. And so I'm like, they've explored space magic in legends, but not so much in live action.
Hey man, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
let's get some space magic wizards going on.
Harry Potter
let's
shows up. Yeah,
like Voldemort following.
Voldemort. Maybe that was the statues. It was 3 Voldemorts. I do think though. Yeah, I think whatever the Night Sisters, they can do some powerful stuff. And Darcy, you had mentioned earlier Marin from the Jedi series of games. It was funny because when I looked at Morgan Elsbeth, I'm like, I'm not really getting Night Sister, but then if you look really closely at the top of her forehead, she's got that tattoo. And so, I think it's going to be interesting. I think the only thing I will say, and this is more on like the critical side of the, like from a performance side of things, not so much narrative. I don't think it's so much Diana's performance with this character. I'm just not feeling her yet that much. I think, you've got such interesting characters like Balin or Hati. I really want to like dig into them a bit more. But I am really interested to see what Morgan will kind of, what is her place in all this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so after experiencing a nightmare in which she heard Ezra's voice, Sabine notices a ship is on approach. It's Ahsoka's ship. Finally, Sabine decides to show her face, and Governor Azadi sternly tells her that she missed the ceremony. Ahsoka hands her the star map and tells her she thinks she knows how to find Ezra. They sit down and Ahsoka hands Sabine the map. During that conversation, we learn that the two have shared a difficult past as master and apprentice. Huyang interrupts them and informs Ahsoka that one of the sabers belongs to Balin Skoll and that he was trained in the Jedi arts. Ahsoka returns to the table to discover that Sabine is gone and she's taken the map. We see a probe droid tracking Sabine as she speeds down the highway, and now we know that Shin Hati knows of her location. So we learned that Ahsoka walked away from Sabine when things got, quote-unquote, too difficult. What do you think actually went down between them? Let's dig into this.
Well, before we get into that, I just got to say, I love the Phantom Menace callback with the probe droid and then Hati from behind with the hood up. It's just like, oh my God.
Darth Maul!
It's Maul all
it's Darth
over
Maul.
again.
And it's white, but it's like, it's
desert
the droid's white.
Almost.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
Referenced
but like,
and remixed, right? Like 100%.
Well, instead of like a black cloak and the black droid, it's this white orb droid. Again, all of these things to kind of give you more of an impression that they're not Sith, but there's something else.
Still shouldn't trust them. Yeah, they're still
exactly.
sketchy.
There's something. They're still sketchy. They're not.
They're a different kind of sketchy than what we've seen before. So
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, but getting into
ahead.
the whole Ahsoka and Sabine thing, this is really interesting because you think Kanan would have mentioned something about maybe a latent force sensitivity that he sensed in Sabine while he was trying to train her in wielding the Darksaber, and the fact that wasn't brought up at all by him, and we're only getting this now that she was an apprentice in some capacity. It's just like, is she force sensitive? How far did this apprenticeship last? Was it an apprentice in the Jedi way, or was it just in the doing good by the universe's, message or guidance or whatever? It's very, I'm curious to see in what capacity Ahsoka was training her as an apprentice. So again, I hope we dive into that a bit more later on, because so many cans of worms being open that I just want to keep getting into.
Yeah, exactly. They keep giving you the little breadcrumbs to get you interested. I think a lot of probably what has to do with why, Ahsoka walked away from Sabine has to do with Anakin. I think she's seeing something, probably aggression, fear, the idea, maybe like you said, Darcy, she can't let go of her past. Like she can't let go of the fact of what happened to Ezra, and that could consume her, and she could fall to the dark side. And she's seen what's happened there. She has her own PTSD, which it seems like she hasn't really told anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like at this point, and as Obi-Wan has kind of established as well, like not many people know
Darth Vader
is Anakin.
Yeah.
And she's going to take that to her grave, even though he's dead. Like she's not going around saying, "Oh yeah, that was my old master," because that's going to people are going to start questioning her.
You got to think,
right?
She's talked about it with Luke though. Like
for sure,
Luke has talked
of course,
about it, but
yeah,
that's not
but
enough. Yeah.
But they get to reminisce about Anakin. She gets to reminisce about Anakin. She doesn't have to live with the idea of what he became. And I think, she's probably not at peace, but at the same time, she's very much walking a very fine line with understanding where she can, because I don't think she really wants to, she doesn't want to be a Jedi. Do you know what I mean? Like she's not that. She's no Jedi. So I don't know. And the idea that Sabine is force sensitive, there is a moment in the trailers where, in the most recent trailer, where she attempts to use the Force and Shin Hati yells back at her and says, "You have no power." So I think it's something that, like, to your point, is latent. Maybe it hasn't been discovered, and maybe that is part of it. Like, Ahsoka couldn't tap into it. She could sense it, but there was something that Sabine was holding Sabine back that she could not unlock. And she was just like, you know what? Like, you're just gonna fall down a dark path, and, getting consumed like so many Jedi do with the foresight of what can be and not living in the moment. That's always the detriment of Jedi. You know what I mean? Is the Force gives them signs and speaks to them in ways, and it might be that. So, maybe she saw something that for Sabine that scared her. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of there.
Maybe she saw something within herself that started reminding her too much of some of the darker sides of Anakin. And I wonder too, in the sense of, like, she makes it very clear to Hu Yang, hey, the order is no more. And I'm wondering if that's like a little bit of peppered foreshadowing to get people who maybe haven't seen Ahsoka's past ready for a flashback that hopefully explains this stuff in greater detail. But I also kind of look at the idea that it's very possible that for Ahsoka, I'm not going to say, like, I completely agree with Ahsoka that the majority of what the Jedi Order established was bullshit. Like, it's not good. They weren't great. But I think what might have frustrated her during Sabine's training is that there were certain things that maybe the Order did have right, and she didn't want to acknowledge it. And it wasn't not only holding her back, maybe it was holding Sabine back. And I'm wondering if that's part of it. And it's interesting to see that with Ahsoka, because again, we think of Ahsoka, especially looking at her in Book of Boba Fett, right? She's like, she can do no wrong, but I think this series will really help us to see and explore her faults at the same time.
Absolutely. It's going to really go into the more, because to your point, like, she's just been a character in The Mandalorian and in the Book of Boba Fett, where we knew who she was. That's it.
Yeah,
we haven't
Ahsoka.
explored. Yeah, that's Ahsoka. We haven't explored her past and the history that we haven't seen since the animated series.
Yeah.
So 100%, this series, which feels like a movie, is going to fully explore all of that, and I'm ready for it, because even in the animated stories, they did such a great job of unraveling Ahsoka at different points in her life, from Clone Wars and Rebels. So I'm really excited to see what adult Ahsoka, I'm not sure what her age is, but, like, I'm
47 in the events of Ahsoka.
Wow. Okay.
I looked that up because I was wondering. So.
Yeah, so that's great. Like, like she's definitely far more mature, right?
Yeah.
She's just nearing 50, and there's a lot of stuff that's happened, and yeah, I think you carry all that baggage for a really long time, it's going to show its face in some really, really ugly ways.
Well, and this is a hot topic, and we'll go to the next section after this, but just, I mean, look at Luke in episode 8. Right, I think this is, again, we're seeing a master and apprentice story where the master isn't this perfect person. It isn't, I think we never really got to see, at least in the live action stuff, the faults of Qui-Gon, right? And even to a certain degree, I don't think
faults.
Well, yeah,
we have explored that Qui-Gon was perfect.
Who knows? But even someone like Obi-Wan, again, we do get to sort of see a little bit of his mistakes with Anakin. And so I think just continuing on that track record of these masters who really need to look inside themselves, and there's still work to be done, no matter how old or how mature or how wise they become. They're always still going to make mistakes. I mean, even Yoda, he had to go into exile because of the mistakes he made, right? So
yeah, but then he was in episode 8, like, episode 8, he fully acknowledges that those mistakes made him stronger.
Yep.
And
right?
the order was wrong. Like he realized that and came to that realization after his death.
It's absolutely crazy that, like, that's of all the things that movie gave us, it was a really great moment to kind of reflect, look back, especially with such a iconic character like Yoda, who is so wise, to kind of be the one to do the knowledge drop there, and kind of say, like, this is where we were wrong, and we need to accept that what our weaknesses are our strengths, and it makes us stronger. So yeah. I don't know. I think it's probably a lot of that to a certain degree that's really playing into Ahsoka's backstory and where she's at right now, for sure.
Let's keep going here. So as Sabine begins, this will kind of be the last section here. As Sabine begins to study the map further, Ahsoka and Hera share a moment where we learn that the turmoil between Ahsoka and her former apprentice is due in part because Ahsoka walked away from Sabine, just like she did Anakin. As Sabine makes a discovery involving 3 figures, she unlocks the map, but just as she does, she's attacked by 2 assassin droids, and one of them, steals the map, and the other one, Sabine manages to stop. Sabine calls Huyang for backup, grabs a lightsaber, and runs outside, only to be confronted by Shin Hati. So incredible. The 2 spar, attacking each other viciously until Sabine makes one mistake and is stabbed right through, causing her to drop to the ground as she's swinging wildly. Shin escapes with the unlocked star map, and we see Sabine taking what could be her final breath. So at this point, was there any worry in your mind at all that she could have potentially?
No, but that did go right through her. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even like a slash or something. It was like, it went right through her. But hey, like, that
doesn't matter anymore.
No,
like,
but like
Reva, the Inquisitor in Obi-Wan, you can get stabbed. It doesn't hurt you anymore, apparently.
Well, no, like there's ways to heal it.
That's the thing with lightsabers, though. They are cauterizing as soon as you stab.
Exactly.
So there's no internal bleeding. She's
there's
not
convenience
blood.
to getting stabbed with a lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There is, but at the same time, that's why it's just like, okay, she can't be dead. It's too low. She didn't fall into a pit like Han Solo. Like she was.
It depends on where you're hit.
Yeah, it depends on where you're hit.
Like if you were to go for someone's heart, well, you're
instant
cauterizing.
Shot. That was lower. I was like just under the lungs, like lower rib cage section. So she went to kidney. She just took a hard hit there.
For sure. And I think that was the other thing too, like the way they showed where it was happening. It was like, okay, she's like, it was so obvious that like it didn't really hit anywhere. I think it was going to incapacitate her, and she was going to fall to the ground. That was
if Ahsoka wasn't arriving at that time,
sure,
probably would have been the end of Sabine. But
that's the other thing too. Someone was there to save her.
Yeah, Shin Hati was like, you know what, I'm going to mark this as a win and get out of here with the map. So, which I gotta say, Sabine, another very childish thing to do, to be like, oh, I've unlocked this map. Now let's go and stare out forlornly at the stars and just leave this very valuable piece of
Disney. You have to stare out at the stars.
Well, I think she was looking. I think what she did is once she realized roughly the star, where the location
in real,
she was looking up to see like if she could see anything. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of the second episode, I guess, but I mean, just the fact that it was so quick, like she doesn't understand the stakes that are connected to this map for whatever reason.
That's what Ahsoka said, right?
That drove me so much. Like, this is such an important piece. You've dealt with vital information before. We've seen you do it in Rebels. Why are you treating this so like lackadaisically? Like, you're just like, oh, I got time. No one's gonna come looking for me. I'm safe on this planet where people know where I am. Like,
well, I think that has a lot to do with where Sabine is at this point. I think we're, as you said, like by the end of Rebels, we're used to seeing a more calculated, a smarter Sabine. And I'm not saying she got dumber, but I think that she's no longer
not challenged.
She's no longer challenged. She's no longer like she's out of practice, if you will, of being a rebel. She's just chilling on Lothal, and so I think it's interesting. I seeing her continue to swing after she's been stabbed, and it's just that almost that desperation in that moment that you can feel from her character.
Yeah, she realizes that she basically is falling into what Ahsoka expected.
Yeah,
that she couldn't.
Which is super
she wasn't
frustrating.
responsible enough to handle the map, and I think that that's part of that sort of desperation. That at the end there, it's like, no, I can't let you get away, right? But again, it does make for good storytelling if she does get away. So I will say that was good
for sure. But speaking of that map, Darcy, she unlocked it. She saw some stuff. She was like, yo, 3? And then she's like, click, click, click. And then it all, whoa, I know exactly where Ezra is. What are you thinking in terms of like, what did you see there?
I mean, I'm wondering why like how long that process took for her to look at it from that angle, because
I was seeing it right away.
Yeah, like that's
like I was like you just like if you look at the way the thing is laid out and what symbols you have, follow the symbols. And I was like, she kept rotating, and I'm like,
there it is. The ball.
Exactly.
It was very
you just take the floor and you wrap it around the ball, and that's the map.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how you unlock it. So
Justin,
I was
you're
like,
not in the moment. Okay, you're not in her shoes. You don't understand her. Like,
no, but it was fun though because I felt just as invested as she was. I'm just happy that I figured it out quicker.
My biggest thing is the fact that it looked very like Rubik's Cube, how she twisted the sides to line up these things.
So we're going to get one at Galaxy's Edge, Darcy, and we're both going to buy one, right?
I mean, probably that wasn't where I was going. I was thinking more, how could Hu Yang, this millennia-old droid who has so much computing power in his brain, how could he not crack this 3-sided puzzle that has maybe 36 plus permutations? Like, I don't understand that. There was
I wonder if it's a magic thing though.
Or
maybe,
I was
if
even
they
going...
explain that, then cool, because then that leaves more credence to her being force sensitive in some way.
Exactly. So I was even thinking maybe there's a dormant, because even we know Hu Yang can't use the Force, can't access the Force. He's not a Jedi,
He just knows how to build lightsabers.
He just knows how to build lightsabers. So I think from a technology standpoint, you're right, Darcy, but I think from a Force standpoint, maybe it takes a Force wielder to be able to unlock it, and maybe not just any Force wielder, but one that has the artist's eye or the creativity, if you will.
You have to be able to see the pattern, right?
Yeah.
And see what it is. And I think that it would be crazy if Hu Yang can't see it. Because he, like you said, he's not a Force wielder. It's almost like what he sees through his eyes is just jarbled.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Whereas obviously a Force wielder, and maybe that's the idea. It's like the spell, there's a spell on it that protects it so that no droid can simply just come in and do it. It has to be someone who is chosen. At least I would like to think that would be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I hope we don't get Morgan Elsbeth is tells Sabine, I am your mother. But I did want to bring up a theory surrounding the 3 figures. Now, I know obviously the 3 statues on that planet, we're saying, oh, they were probably Night Sisters, maybe they were Powans or whatever they kind of look like. I was also just the idea of 3 though brought me to Mortis and the ones, the father, the daughter, and the son, and those lines and the imagery, and especially what we see in the end credits, they're very reminiscent of the World Between Worlds. And today for lunch, I sat down and I watched Ezra in episode, I think it's 13 of season 4. I can't quite remember. Yeah. World Between Worlds, where he goes and he explores it, and I was just like, oh, okay, this absolutely has to do with that. And I think the fact that we have three antagonists that fit the mold of the father with Balin, the daughter with Hati, and the son with Merrick, I think could really maybe play in somehow. Maybe they are meant to be almost like conduits on this planet, and they don't know it. Maybe Morgan has picked them specifically for reasons that she hasn't informed them yet. I know Clone Wars and Rebels fans have been clinging on to the Mortis storyline and bugging Filoni about it since 2011. So, I could very much see that this is
that
where we're going.
That storyline is great.
It's
though.
wicked, yeah.
It's so good. It's like the Force before the Force. It's like the origins of it, and I think it's again, it plays such a huge part into establishing so much more beyond just Jedi and Sith.
Yeah.
It helps to cement the spirituality and this sort of interconnective nature that the Force has, and almost even solidifying patterns and the poetry, if you will, of how things tend to repeat, and there's always two. And I think that a lot of again what has strengthened the Force and the Jedi lore comes from what Filoni has done with that Mortis series and with the idea of the place between worlds. Like we know we're going to see that. We it's been in the trailers. If you've seen the episode, you can't help but when the first instance you saw it was like, oh, that's the place between worlds, right? Like they're going back, and who knows how that will fit in to it all. But I like that, again, it doesn't seem like we're getting as a cut and dry light and dark story. We're getting something that feels a little mixed. Mm-hmm. And feels a little bit like it has some new elements at play, and I'm for it because it's really, really interesting, and I like that the idea that you see the symbolism of the story of Mortis and the representation of three. I think there's also something to be said about our three heroines, three sisters, in a lot of ways as well that kind of correlate with that as well. So yeah, it's all like this episode does a really great job of at least introducing some really great new ideas that feel rooted in some past storylines.
Super dope. That is, that would normally bring us to our prediction segment of the show. We've got a whole second part that was released. The second part of this show was released on the same day. You may have already watched it even while you're listening to this. So we're not going to get into predictions here. We probably will for that episode, which we're going to be putting that episode out very soon. It's going to be out on Thursday, the 24th, in the morning. So you can definitely check that out. But for this series premiere, let's get to our overall thoughts and final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 stolen star maps. And Darcy, I'm going to have you kick us off to wrap up here.
Yeah. So while I do have some grievances with, bringing these characters that were so beloved in the animated format to live action, there is going to be some growing pains getting used to seeing them and bring these characters to life in a new way. Aside from that, everything I thought was done in this episode was done really well, especially with the introduction of these new characters in the Dark Jedi and all these, like I said, plot lines, cans of worms that are being opened up for potential exploration as the series goes on. I think it's a solid way to start off this series and really draw in that interest from so many angles to get you hooked on the show and want to come back for more. So the fact that they dropped the two is definitely a benefit, because a lot of people would not want to wait a week after seeing Sabine take that lightsaber to find out how it returns. So the 1-2 release definitely strengthens it, in my opinion, because you get so much of the story and, again, so much potential so early on. So I'll be giving this one a solid 4.5 out of 5 stolen star maps, because I'm excited to see where it goes from here, because there is so much opening up.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Justin, how about yourself?
Talk about a grand entrance into the live action Star Wars universe. Like, this episode nailed it. We've already seen Ahsoka, but we got introduced to the rest of the Rebels cast with seeing Sabine and Hera, and I gotta say, like, the performances from these two, from Natasha and Mary Elizabeth, it's outstanding. Natasha as Sabine was perfect casting, and again, I think she captures the essence of the character in the right amounts, but to the point of what we were saying before, something's different. Something's changed. She's
Mm-hmm.
at a different point in her life. So she's moved the needle forward in the right way. She's not emulating the character, but she has the same, she has similar habits and similar traits that we know and love. And the same thing for Hera. You know, there's such a care, there's such a sense of love and appreciation for her, you know, quote unquote family that is around her. And I think Mary Elizabeth she brings that. So there's such honesty, there's such sincerity from both of them in the way that they bring the essence of of their characters, of their animated characters, to life. You know, this first episode features high quality production, you know, that you would expect from Star Wars. And you know, the cinematography and the look and feel of this entire first episode really felt like a movie in a lot of ways. It was just a very short movie. But even just from that opening scene with that huge ship that comes in, the New Republic ship, you know, it felt grand. It felt epic, you know, more so than even just that explosion that happened on the planet. But yeah, I think that, you know, overall, like, there's some things that need to, you know, obviously find their way through the rest of this. You know, in the spoiler free, we talked about how, or at least I mentioned how I was really let down by Mando season 3, which started strong and ended in a really weird way. But that said, you know, this first episode plants the seeds of intrigue and mystery. It has my mouth salivating for more. I am excited to see things unfold. I hope we're not rushing or running to the end, because what they've established and what they've introduced is so interesting and so great, and it has my mind spinning about where they could go beyond what we know from this galaxy. Because like I was saying before, I think Filoni in a lot of ways, even to simplify it, has brought such a spirituality to Star Wars in the work that he's done. And I think that that's where we could be going with this. And you know, I am excited to talk about episode 2 because I think that will have a lot more of that in there. So yeah, for this one, I'm with Darcy. I'm going to be giving this a 4.5 out of 5 star maps, if I'm not mistaken.
Stolen star maps, dude.
Stolen star maps.
They were stolen.
Out of 5, because yeah, it's a great start, and it's what you want from a first episode. You want to get hooked right away. So
Yep.
You know, boom, they nailed it. Filoni nailed it.
Yeah, Justin, you are drooling like a Corellian hound right now. So go get a bib, go get a towel or whatever. Yeah, this was incredible. I can't get over how amazing it is to see these again, not only characters, but like these ships and these locations realized in live action. And the budget for this episode has to have been big. It has to have been up there, because they visually and with some of the shots that we get, they're so cinematic. They're so next level. I think this really is the best looking live action Star Wars on Disney Plus that we've ever gotten so far. I'm enamored with a Jedi story yet again that is a, you know, a master and apprentice, but the way that they make that work with multiple characters within the show, I think is going to be really, really intriguing. I mean, just you could have just shown me the highway scene with Sabine, and I would have been like, okay, I'm hooked for life. Take all my money, and Filoni, let's make 5 movies out of this. But the music, Kevin Kiner, the music in this episode was just outstanding, and I think honestly, this episode also had one of the coolest villain moments that we've seen in Star Wars, and I think will be remembered for forever. And I'm in love. I'm so enamored. I'm gonna give part 1 of Ahsoka. I'm gonna kind of go a little different than you guys, but I'm gonna give it a very solid 4.5 out of 5 stolen star maps. That's where I'm at. I think the 0.5 is a lot of kind of what some of the things you guys already mentioned. So that is it for this part 1 of Watch Club for Ahsoka. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And like I said, if you want to hear our thoughts on part 2, well, we're working on it. We will have them ready for you. We're running like Ahsoka ran away from that explosion, not like Tom Cruise. And so we're gonna have that. We're gonna have that Watch Club ready for you on the morning of the 24th. I am like Justin said, like that is probably the juicier one as far as like the details are concerned that we can speculate on. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Also, if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or your predictions on the shows that we cover in Watch Club, well, let me just use my comms to reach Hu Yang, who will hopefully contact Justin so he can let you know how you can reach us.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or they can reach out to us on the app formerly known as Twitter.
Yuck.
At GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric, and on Threads at wearegeekcentric.
Also, join our Discord. It's popping off. You can keep up with this Watch Club. We've got a channel opened up for spoiler discussions. You can share your theories directly with us. Maybe we'll talk about them in an upcoming Watch Club episode. So you can join through the link in our description. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest in shows and movies, including our spoiler-free reviews for Only Murders in the Building Season 3. We got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem review. That movie, go see that movie. It's such a wonderful treat. Speaking of, talking about, remixing and reinvigorating, characters. It's fantastic. Haunted Mansion. We've got review for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, and of course, The Bear Season 2. Plus, we have a ton of great interviews out now, like our most recent interview with the cast and showrunner for Foundation, which is now in its second season on Apple TV+. And we have a ton of interviews that you can go back and watch with all sorts of Star Wars folks, including the cast of Andor, director of The Mandalorian, and director of at least one of the episodes of this show, Rick Famuyiwa. We also have an interview with Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker himself, and of course Deborah Chow, director of Obi-Wan, and the visionaries behind the season 1 and 2 of Star Wars Visions, as well as so much more. So go check out all those interviews, either here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Lastly, the Hot Geek Summer continues. I am back to streaming on Twitch. So if you want to keep the geeky conversation going on over there, I'm playing some games. You can catch me over at twitch.tv/NatePlaysGames. And it's a lot of fun. We talk. Sometimes there's things given away. We just have a really great time. And then lastly, we are going to be covering Fan Expo in Toronto, which is the wrong way to pronounce that, by the way. Sorry.
You hit that T way too hard.
I apologize to all my mandem. Toronto. We will have coverage for Fan Expo coming up very soon. So make sure you subscribe here, subscribe on our YouTube, subscribe on our socials, our TikTok, so you can see what we get up to this year. Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this start to our 19th Watch Club for Ahsoka. And as we say, we are no Jedi.